Relisha was last seen at a Northeast D.C. motel here along New York Avenue and Bladensburg Road. She was seen in surveillance video walking hand in hand with a man down a hallway that her family and she knew quite well.
Relisha Rudd is DC's baby.
Rudd was just 8 years old when she vanished from a city homeless shelter. She was last seen with a man known to her parents, Kahlil Tatum, who worked as a janitor at the shelter Rudd lived at with her family.
He didn't look like that type of person. He looked like a good person. The way he played with everybody, kids, the way he did his job, it's all in the man's hands above us. And that's one thing that man above us don't play with, is fools and babies. And my 8-year-old daughter, she is a baby. If my daughter is watching this right now, I would say, I love you. And come back home to your mother safely and unharmed. And I love you. And when you do return back, and if you do return back unharmed, you will never, ever go with anybody else. You will be next to my side at all times.
Today, we shine light on the disappearance of Relisha Rudd. Relisha was born October 29, 2005 in Washington, D.C. Her mother, Shamika Young, was 18 years old, and her father, Irvin Rudd, was 33 years old when Relisha was born. Relisha was the oldest of her mother's 4 children, and even as a little girl, she carried a warmth and maturity that stood out. Family members describe her as helpful, bright, and full of joy, the kind of child that could light up any room. A family member would state, "She was real helpful. She was always happy. She kept the family happy. She was that spirit for the family." At home, Relisha often looked out for her younger siblings, taking on a nurturing motherly role long before she should have had to. At Payne Elementary School, where she was a second grader, teachers often describe Relisha as quiet, well-behaved, and eager to learn. She was sweet, kind-hearted, and polite, and she had a passion for dancing and performing. Her mother, Shamika, would later describe her daughter as the kind of person everyone instantly fell in love with. She was everyone's best friend, she said. But behind Relisha's bright smile and happy spirit, her young life was marked by instability, a world that few people realized she was navigating. But to understand Relisha's story, we have to go back to the beginning, back to the circumstances that shaped her family's life long before she disappeared. Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, had experienced instability long before her daughter was born. Shamika was raised by her mother, Melissa Young, who gave birth to her at just 17 years old. By the time Shamika was around 9, Melissa lost custody of her children due to substance abuse issues. From that point on, Shamika and her siblings bounced from foster homes, group homes, and treatment centers, environments that made it nearly impossible to find any sense of stability or belonging. When Shamika turned 18, she left foster care. Not long after, she met Irvin Rudd, a man in his early 30s with a troubling past. Irvin had spent 15 years in prison after being convicted of involuntary manslaughter in the unaliving of his 17-month-old daughter from a previous relationship back in 1992. Despite that history, Shamika and Irvin began a relationship and went on to have 2 children together, Relisha and her younger brother. The family lived in rough neighborhoods, often struggling to make ends meet, and the relationship didn't last. By the time Relisha was around 2 years old, the couple separated, and according to family, Irvin was not active in his children's lives. Shamika later met and began a relationship with Antonio Wheeler, and together they had 2 more children. But even then, financial struggles continued. The family moved frequently, staying with relatives, friends, and sometimes in motels when they had nowhere else to go. Between 2007 and 2010, D.C. Child and Family Services received multiple reports about neglect, lack of food, and poor living conditions. But despite those concerns, the cases were eventually dropped, and Shamika retained custody of her children. By 2012, after multiple evictions and nowhere else to turn, Shamika, Antonio, and the children moved to the D.C. General Family Shelter, located on the 1900 block of Massachusetts Avenue Southeast. Once a hospital, D.C. General had been converted into one of the city's largest shelters for unhoused families. It was meant to be a place of safety, a temporary refuge for families trying to rebuild their lives. But inside those walls, many residents describe an environment that was chaotic, understaffed, and unsafe. The shelter housed hundreds of families, often in cramped and unsanitary conditions. Reports describe broken systems, lack security, and almost no oversight. The kind of place where people could easily fall through the cracks. In 2013, while at the shelter, more reports were filed with the D.C. Child and Family Services, citing possible abuse and neglect. Once again, no children were removed from Shamika and Antonio's custody, and the cases were dropped. By early 2014, Relisha and her family had been living at the shelter for nearly 2 years, and among the shelter staff was Kahlil Tatum, a 51-year-old janitor employed through a contractor called the Community Partnership for the Prevention of Homelessness. Despite being a convicted felon with a record that included burglary, larceny, and breaking and entering, there were no legal barriers preventing him from working at the shelter. Kahlil had served multiple prison sentences between 1993 and 2011, yet was allowed to work around vulnerable families and children.
DC General needs to be, they need to really do a really thorough background check with these workers.
The shelter had a strict no fraternization policy, but Kahlil routinely ignored it, and management reportedly did little to stop him. To the residents, he seemed friendly and generous. He'd give the children at the shelter small gifts, candy, and money.
Melissa Young adds that all the attention Tatum was paying to Shamika's children was something the family had grown used to.
People just love Shamika kids. So it wasn't strange for us to see that somebody was doing something, in their time of need.
He bought my daughter a fish tank, but I stopped it there. No more gifts.
Many began referring to him as their godfather. Relisha's mother, Shamika, and grandmother, Melissa, started trusting him. They believed Kahlil was a kind of mentor figure, someone who cared about children, especially Relisha.
He didn't look like that type of person. He looked like a good person. The way he played with everybody's kids, the way he did his job.
Kahlil himself played into that image of a helpful man. He even sometimes called himself Dr. Tatum. Kahlil had a granddaughter around Relisha's age and soon began taking Relisha out on outings, to the mall, to the movies, and other fun events. At first, he would pick her up and drop her off the same day. Relisha always returned with gifts, toys, clothes, and snacks. Because Relisha hated being at the shelter, Shamika saw these trips as a way for her daughter to have some normal childhood fun. But over time, these trips became longer. However, her brothers never attended any of these outings. Eventually, Kahlil began taking Relisha overnight, allegedly so she could spend time with his granddaughter.
Every time my granddaughter comes back, she tell me, I had fun with Mr. Tatum's granddaughter. I want to go back.
Those outings, which seemed innocent at first, would lead to one of the most chilling disappearances in Washington, D.C. history. On Wednesday, February 26, 2014, Relisha was supposed to attend a pool party with Kahlil Tatum and his granddaughter. Due to conflicting accounts given by family members about who she was with, where she was picked up, and how she ended up with Kahlil that day, the truth has never been completely clear. Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, and stepfather, Antonio Willer, said that Relisha was staying with her grandmother, Melissa, at her sister Ashley's home, and that Melissa allowed her to go with Kahlil. But Melissa claimed the opposite. saying that Relisha was with Shamika and that Kahlil picked her up from Shamika.
The public cannot fault me at this, and I thought I could have trust in my mother and my sister.
Shamika tells me that Relisha was in the care of Shamika's mother and sister at the time of her disappearance. Well, I called the mother and sister and they say that's absolutely not true.
But what we do know is that around 7:30 p.m., surveillance footage captured Relisha walking down the hallway of the Holiday Inn Express on Bladenburg Road in Northeast D.C. along with Kahlil Tatum. Relisha appeared calm, dressed in her blue and white striped jacket, holding a plastic bag that seemed to contain takeout food. That was the last publicly released footage of Relisha Rudd. Just a few days later, on March 1st, a video of Relisha surfaced on social media, posted by her family. They claimed it had been filmed that day, showing that Relisha was still in their care.
The last time I saw her was when that video that was put on Instagram. Okay. That was filmed in here.
That was March 1st.
Get it, little mama.
But surveillance from the Days Inn on New York Avenue captured that same day showed something far more concerning. In that footage, which has never been released to the public, Relisha is seen again with Kahlil Tatum, walking through the hotel lobby towards a room. Law enforcement states that the footage at the Days Inn would be their last known sighting of Relisha Rudd. The next day, on March 2nd, surveillance camera caught Kahlil purchasing garbage bags, lime, and a shovel. Shortly after, he was spotted entering the Kenilworth Park and Aquatic Gardens area, a large park and wetland preserve in Northeast D.C. Over the following weeks, Relisha stopped showing up for school. While some claim to have seen her as late as March 5th or 7th, her last confirmed school attendance was February 25th. By early March, Relisha had been absent from school for several days, and her teachers began to take notice. According to an interview published by the Washington Post with school social worker Larry Workman, on Wednesday, March 5, 2014, Mr. Workman received a notice that Relisha had accumulated 5 unexcused absences. When Shamika came to pick up her sons, who were all still attending school, Mr. Workman asked her about Relisha's whereabouts. Shamika told him that Relisha was under the care of a Dr. Tatum. A few days later, Relisha's grandmother, Melissa, allegedly gave Mr. Workman a note with Dr. Tatum's phone number, claiming that Relisha was being treated for migraines. Melissa would later deny ever writing that note. Over the next week, Mr. Workman exchanged several phone calls with Kahlil Tatum, who posed as a doctor. Kahlil assured him that Relisha was under his medical care for neurological issues and would soon be discharged, promising to provide documentation, which he never did. By Thursday, March 13th, Relisha had accumulated 10 unexcused absences. By law, the school was required to report this to the D.C. Child and Family Services for educational neglect. But Mr. Workman delayed filing the report, believing that Relisha truly was receiving medical care and giving the doctor time to submit the documentation. Then on Wednesday, March 19th, after more stalling from Dr. Tatum, Mr. Workman decided to visit the D.C. General Shelter himself. It was there that he made a chilling discovery. Kahlil Tatum wasn't a doctor at all. He was a janitor. Realizing the danger, Mr. Workman immediately contacted law enforcement.
Relisha wasn't reported missing until Wednesday, when Payne Elementary School alerted police.
Relisha went to Payne Elementary School, but she hadn't gone to school for weeks. And when officials got suspicious, they say janitor Tatum became Dr. Tatum. March 10th. On or about that day, Kahlil Tatum, posing as a doctor, tells a city official that Relisha's not in school because she's sick, that she has some sort of neurological disorder and she's undergoing treatment. The official says, we need some documentation of that. Dr. Tatum said he'd leave the paperwork here at the shelter.
That same day, police launched a missing person investigation for Relisha. Her siblings were then removed from Shamika and Antonio's custody and placed in foster care. When police began questioning the family, they were shocked to learn that no one had reported Relisha missing. In fact, Shamika admitted that she hadn't seen her daughter in nearly 3 weeks. When police went to the address Shamika gave them, her sister's home, Relisha was nowhere to be found.
While Shamika couldn't remember the actual date she last saw Relisha, she remembers where it was.
Over here at my sister's house, I did her hair. I bought her some shoes, some Jordan flights, some 2013 Jordan flights.
She says that she defends her decision not to call police after her daughter went missing over approximately 3 weeks. When your daughter was missing for 3 weeks, did you say to yourself, where is she? Is she with Tatum? Did you call the school? Did anything come to mind during that period of time?
I wasn't under the impression that she was missing. I was under the impression that she was still at my sister's house where I left her and under the care of my mother.
Some people would say, why didn't you call police if your daughter was missing?
I didn't want to lose my other 3 kids. That's why I didn't call the police.
Her grandmother, Melissa, told police she hadn't seen Relisha either, but claimed she had spoken with her on the phone, and that Shamika had allowed Relisha to stay with Kahlil for a while. At that point, it was clear Relisha was missing, and Kahlil Tatum was the last person known to have seen her.
If Kahlil Tatum is watching this right now, what would you say to him? You can look at the camera.
What would I say to you? I have a lot of questions to ask you, and I want you to answer them properly and give me the correct answer.
The next day, Thursday, March 20th, investigators received a tip that Kahlil Tatum's truck was parked outside the Red Roof Inn in Oxon Hill, Maryland. When officers arrived to the motel and entered room 132, they found a devastating scene.
March 19th, as the investigation intensified, Kahlil Tatum and his wife checked into the Red Roof Inn on Oxon Hill Road. Sources say there's no evidence Relisha was with them at the time. March 20th, Andrea Tatum is found murdered inside that motel room.
Kahlil's wife of over 20 years. Investigators learned that Kahlil had filed for divorce just a month earlier. Andrea's family described her as outgoing, funny, and full of life, the opposite of the darkness that consumed her husband. Police immediately named Kahlil Tatum the prime suspect in his wife's unaliving and issued a warrant for his arrest. After an extensive manhunt throughout the days that followed, on Monday, March 31st, Kahlil Tatum's body was found in a shed at the Kenilworth Park and Aquatic Gardens.
That body found tonight in the park has been identified tentatively, according to D.C. police, as Kahlil Tatum, the man suspected of killing his wife and kidnapping Relisha Rudd, but Rudd is still missing tonight. After weeks of searching, a discovery in Kenilworth Park and Aquatic Gardens in Northeast Washington, all indications are that it is the body of 51-year-old Kahlil Tatum, and police say it appears that he committed suicide.
The same park he was seen visiting weeks earlier. With Kahlil Tatum unalived, police closed Andrea Tatum's case, but Relisha's disappearance remained a mystery. Relisha Rudd was just 8 years old when she vanished. She stood about 4 feet tall, weighed around 80 pounds, and had black hair and brown eyes. Family and friends often called her Little Mama. When she was last seen, she was wearing a purple Helly Hansen winter jacket and pink boots. Despite an extensive search, no trace of Relisha was ever found. Police were left with more questions than answers. How was Kahlil Tatum allowed to spend unsupervised time with Relisha? How did no one notice Relisha was missing for nearly a month? And why did so many adults fail to act sooner? Investigators believe that Kahlil Tatum knew exactly what happened with Relisha, and that he took that to his grave. During the investigation, authorities discovered that Kahlil continued showing up for work at the D.C. General Shelter between March 2nd and March 19th. But on March 19th, the same day the school finally contacted police, he abruptly disappeared.
People are asking the question, who failed Relisha? Who do you think failed Relisha?
Honestly, I think it's more that the government could have did. I think the school failed her too.
Why is that?
Because if they would have came out with a name from the start, something could have been done from the start.
If they would have what? I'm sorry?
Came out with the name of a doctor, something could have been started.
Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, blames everyone but herself and Kahlil Tatum, the man police say abducted her little girl, Relisha. Do you blame him at all in this?
I choose not to answer those questions.
Are you angry with Mr. Tatum?
I'm probably angry with everybody, the world, the media, everybody.
Why are you angry with the media?
They just switches my words up.
As detectives began to piece what happened, serious flaws in the system began to surface.
Familiar with the investigation say Child and Family Services knew of multiple problems with the 28-year-old mother's ability to care for her 4 young children as far back as 2007.
This family was under the supervision of Child and Family Services. So this child should not have gone missing.
At the D.C. General Shelter, nightly bed checks, meant to ensure all children were accounted for, were not properly done. Staff often counted children by number, not by name, which meant that for weeks, no one at the shelter realized Relisha was gone. When an Amber Alert was finally issued, it was limited only to the D.C. area, even though evidence suggested she may have been taken across state lines.
The chief denied our findings that outside D.C., there were no Relisha Amber Alerts.
That's not true. I actually looked into that when I got that allegation. The Amber Alert was issued as far north as Pennsylvania and Delaware and as far south as Florida.
If that had only been true, TV stations across the East Coast would have been broadcasting Relisha's disappearance. But our investigation found the Amber Alert was only activated in the District of Columbia.
Advocates and community members criticized law enforcement for failing to expand the alert or mobilize national media coverage. Public outrage spread across Washington, D.C. Child advocates called Relisha's case a tragic symbol of systemic neglect. In the years that followed, Relisha's family appeared on national TV, including The Steve Wilkos Show in 2017, where relatives publicly blamed one another for her disappearance. Shamika refused to take a polygraph test on air, later claiming she took one privately, a claim that was never confirmed. In 2019, amid mounting criticism and public pressure, the city permanently closed the D.C. General Family Shelter. For some, it meant a long overdue act of accountability. For others, it was far too late. To this day, no one has been charged, and Relisha has never been found. As of 2025, the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia states that they continue to investigate her disappearance, following any credible leads that come in. Even though Relisha Rudd is still missing, her community has never forgotten her. July 11th is now recognized in Washington, D.C. as the Relisha Rudd's Remembrance Day, a day to remember the bright little girl with the big smile, and to raise awareness for every missing and endangered child who doesn't get the attention they deserve. Relisha's story isn't just about a missing child. It's about poverty, policy, and the people who were supposed to protect her, but didn't. It's a reminder of how easily children can slip through the cracks of a broken system. Somewhere out there, someone knows what happened to Relisha Rudd. If you have any information, no matter how small, please contact the Metropolitan Police Department. I pray that one day Relisha Rudd is found and brought home.
Relisha's stepfather among those speaking through tears.
I just want my baby back. Yeah, I got hope, but I'm preparing for the worst, but I'm praying for the best.
Relisha.
No story should be forgotten. No voice should go unheard. Until the next time, I'm Lock Jewel, and thank you for watching Shades of Crime. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember to pray. God's listening.